Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here. You have stated that the future costs of the war in Iraq will be situation dependent, and I think everybody agrees with that. And I want to get back to something that Mr. Doggett raised. If the situation were the redeployment of all U.S. troops and contractors not needed for the protection of the U.S. Embassy and our diplomatic personnel and for limited operations targeting foreign jihadists, I mean, is it? I mean, you must have cost estimates for the redeployment, of all other U.S. troops from Iraq over a period of time. I mean, do you have cost estimates for the redeployment over 6 months, or 9 months, or 12 months? Is that something that?
No, sir, I don't.
Well, what's a little bit disturbing is the fact that Congress, the House of Representatives, has gone on record as voting for a timeline. The Senate, if they ever get allowed to vote, a majority would probably vote for the same thing. I guess what I would like to ask, and I'm not sure the proper way to request this, is that if you could give this committee the estimates of the cost of the redeployment of U.S. forces over a period of 6, 9, and 12 months. Is that something that you could provide the committee?
I would say, Mr. McGovern, you can only provide it if you understand all the guidelines that go into that. So there's a whole lot of considerations in terms of equipment. Right. I mean, so you could construct such a scenario.
I think that would be helpful to us, given the fact that a majority of the House of Representatives is on record asking for a timeline. And I'm not sure what the situation is going to be in September, but it is conceivable that a majority in this House will vote again for a timeline. And it is conceivable that the United States Senate will, and that a bill will be moved to the President. And I guess I would like to ask the Chairman, or whatever the proper way to do this is if you could provide this committee within the next 30 days, so when we come back in September, that we have some basic outlines of what, in fact, the cost of redeployment would be. I mean, Senators Warner and Lugar, also 2 Republicans, have set out a set of guidelines that call for a date certain. But I think it's important for us to know what we're talking about in terms of cost. Just as you kind of guesstimate what, in fact, it might be to stay for a month or 2 months or 3 months or 4 months or a year, I think we would like to know what it would cost actually, to bring our troops home, with the caveat that obviously we want to protect the people at our embassy and have a force there to respond to Al-Qaeda or any other threats. And so if we can make that formal request here, and if you could get us something in the next 30 days, that would be very much appreciated.
So, Mr. McGovern, so let me just say I do understand the request. And so I understand the request, and so I accept the request.
All right, good. Thank you. One other issue here, and that is, according to the October 2006 report of the Special Inspector General for Iraq Reconstruction, only about 10,000 of the 370,000 small arms delivered through U.S. assistance had their serial numbers recorded. And I think there's a slide on the bottom of page 5 that deals with this. Some of these arms and equipment have been discovered in the possession of sectarian militias. Others have turned up on the black market. There have also been several recent articles as well as testimony before Congress that raise concerns about the reliability and loyalty of Iraq's security forces. One article in the New York Times described how uniformed security forces equipped with U.S. arms have even attacked and ambushed U.S. military forces. Now, I read that U.S. military commanders are now pushing a strategy to create local militia groups to provide security who might or might not be hired at a later point by the Iraqi government. And these forces would be paid with, and I quote, U.S. emergency funds, reward payments, and other monies, end quote, according to a July 28th Washington Post article. I guess my question is, what emergency or other funds are being used to pay for these forces? Is this coming out of the Commander's Emergency Response Program monies?
The movement that they're talking about, sir, is mainly out in Al-Anbar province, where the sheikhs have come forward, and due to the brutality and intimidation of the Al-Qaeda, they have basically worn out their welcome. So the sheikhs have come forward, partnered with the commanders on the ground to go ahead and build local, to go ahead and take local security forces that are under the tribal command and partner with. I do not know for a fact where the funds, whether it's SERP funds or what type funds are being used initially to go ahead and pay those forces. But
if you could provide us that information as well, because SERP funds, respond to, quote, urgent humanitarian reconstruction needs, and I guess there's some concern about having those funds be, directed to supporting militias. And just the final thing is, how can we be assured that the funds, equipment, and arms that we're providing to the Iraqi military, police, and security forces are not being used against U.S. troops in the field or in sectarian attacks against various Iraqi groups and communities? As we've seen a number of reports that have appeared in the press about that. And I guess how do we assure that that's not the case in the future?
Well, obviously, the commanders on the ground do the best they can to go ahead and vet those who would come forward to be part of these security elements, just like we do when we recruit them to send them to formal military training or to police academies. And they're in the process now of they're taking the fingerprints and put them in the BAT system so that we have a record of those individuals who step forward to become part of these security forces.
But clearly there seems to be a problem when we have U.S. trained Iraqi security forces in some cases attacking U.S. military, and in many cases attacking Iraqi civilians. So obviously something is not working the way we want it to. And I guess, and I know I'm out of time, but maybe you could provide us some sort of a statement as to, in fact, what is going on to try to deal with this situation more effectively.
Mr. McGovern, we'll try to actually categorize this in terms of scope and size. Obviously, Iraq, there's a lot of security forces, a lot of capability, and so I don't know if this is just an aberrant small group or how big this problem is. So we will try to categorize for you and also answer your questions.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.